as opposed to workshops where we do the invocation and the pledge.
As you like. I'm not sure was that on the agenda?
Yeah. I've still got a minute and a half, 2 minutes to go before we have to put this show on the road.
There's like 3 types of them in there. I've just seen so many changes with our membership that maybe I'll just get it once a quarter.
How long is that?
This is from September.
Yeah.
So maybe just once a quarter, so is it possible to have it for Wednesday? This is, I
What
didn't
categories
get
are
it.
there?
This is trade accounts, residential membership,
Okay, it's
charter accounts.
Monday morning, January 14th, 9:30 a.m. So I'm calling this special meeting to order. If we could stand for a moment of silence, appreciate it. Thank you. And now if we can do the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have present at the meeting a few members. Our secretary, Maria Perkins, our vice president, Bill Herman, myself, Dan Sullivan, our treasurer, Deborah Isaacs, and absent is Director John Hope. We do have a quorum, and so we will now go forward. We'll start out with a formal approval of the proposed agenda, which is old business and where we discuss the proposed association rules and regulation changes pertaining to the RV park, renters rules, and the general rules and regulations. So, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? All opposed? Maria, did you vote?
I did, I voted for it.
Thank you, I missed it. All right, you passed unanimously. To start with, as I recall, my notes indicate that the last meeting we had where we worked on this, the RV park rules and regulation recommendations were reviewed, and we made some changes to what they had submitted, and completed our task for that. If I'll go over what I have, and then anyone that has something different, please let me know to what changes we did make. Under the all campers and RVs must register at the RV park before occupying a spot, except after hours. Under that, number 1, where it said quiet hours, we did not change. Number 2 said no idling of vehicles. We added unnecessarily. No unnecessary idling of vehicles. On number 4, the checkout time they had is 11 p.m., which was just a typo. I'm sure we changed that to 11 a.m. Those are the only changes on the first page I have. On the reverse side, my notes indicated number 24, we reserve the right to review service to anyone, and we were adding for any reason. And then we were adding in there a section that says must be registered at the RV office. That's number 8. And I have as a question mark if we wanted to add anything about electric or permanence. That's all I have for changes.
Well, there's some other notes that I had written down that,
Excuse me, just quickly, I'll add on the acknowledgement of receipt of rules where they sign in, we were adding a check-in and check-out date.
right, there's that, and then, what, in the parking, we had talked about number of people. We didn't have a definite end state to it, but we said max, it was like max 6 people or something like that. And then we talked about, I asked a question about fines. Did we address fines?
Refresh my memory.
Um,
Well, first of all, on the
well, it
parking,
says,
that
yeah,
was under number 9.
correct, number 9.
And what did we say there? Mine doesn't have a note.
Well, I don't know why I wrote it down, but it says 6 people, so I guess if nobody else has it, then I'll
Which
move
one
on.
were-
Maybe a question or something
Parking,
you're gonna bring up today.
Well, I wrote my questions in different colors, so.
And then the second
And then the second thing was fines, because it said in here that if you don't if you don't follow the rules, somewhere it talked about fines, and then I wrote a question mark, well, what about the fines? This is from the last meeting.
Then I'm gonna make another note to consider fines, because that's gonna have to be probably the same as, well, it might have to fall under the individual enforcement assessment, but that would be only for members, and that would be an upward issue.
This is for the RV park, right?
Right,
Right, so,
members of the association utilize the RV park. So if they were to be fined for any rules violation, that would come to the board under that individual enforcement assessment.
I'm going to caution against using that word fine. By using that, you expose yourself to some very somewhat complicated, extensive rules and regulations by statute,
You're
by
right.
Texas law. And we've tried to avoid doing that, and that's one of the reasons we call it an enforcement assessment.
Right.
well, whatever you call it, you know, there's got to be a penalty for not following the rules, and there, I saw somewhere where it says that we can kick you out, but there's nothing that we didn't identify what actually will happen. Is there a first notice is it a warning? Now that I'm talking it out loud, I remember what the conversation was. It kind of went in a circle, and there was no true area that defined what the process is if somebody's not following a rule, whether it's in the rules and regulations or on this sheet of paper. And then, let's see.
So we need to address a policy or as a consequence for the failure to comply.
Let's say somebody
Right.
gets in trouble for idling a diesel out there, and they've been told 1 or 2 times, then what is the action to take? I mean, that would be one of the ideals.
You could reject them from the park.
Well, yeah, but you can't just kick somebody out. You got to tell them and this is where I'm saying we don't have this written down anywhere.
What we do right here.
Or your dog's over there pooping on the ground and you don't pick it up and somebody else complains about it. I mean, those are types of things that I think that would be addressed with a fine or a.
Well, no,
enforcement. I don't know.
I know what you're saying, but on number 24, we had changed it to Fort Clark FCSA reserves the right to refuse service to anyone.
For any reason.
And I get that, but that's still not right. Every place you go, there's a system. If you violate the rules, you get a written notification. We don't have it in that either, because I addressed that as well in the rules and regulations.
Did you
Then the
put
second
together-
time, you get another notification with a fine or assessment or whatever you want to call it, fee. Then the third time, you're out. You know, if that's the case for that. I'm not saying this is what we have to do. I'm saying that we need to establish something that is definitive so someone knows if I don't follow this is the process, and I can be kicked out. Because that's not fair to just kick someone out.
What would you propose, Maria?
I just told you. 3 strikes, you're out kind of deal. I mean,
Okay, that's your proposal. Do we want to discuss that? Does anyone have any thoughts? So the first time they get a warning, did you say?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's how it goes everywhere else in the world. Or you could do 2 steps route. I mean, you can't just you cannot just tell somebody, oh, you didn't follow this rule right here, I'm kicking you out. I mean, that's not right.
We're coming up with the new rules and regulations for the RV park. Shouldn't we put all these together, then meet with the person down there to see where, the manager, to see where they really stand with some of these things and what's gonna be possible or not possible?
I would be interested to hear from that
I would,
individual too.
before we put it actually into the rules and regulations somehow, or to the staff somehow.
By all means, I would
I
hope
mean, we just
that,
need to put some new proposal together and then present it and then make sure what we're asking for makes sense to the people that's gonna have to enforce it.
yes ma'am, I agree with you.
Yeah, I agree too.
So
let's put the
it's
proposal together.
that could be an issue that we could talk about, and then when we really sit down and look at everything black and white, we may have a little more to put to it, or maybe a little less to take out of it.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't even know how many people violate the rules. I have no idea. I know that I've heard a few stories, but that's all I've
Well,
heard.
and number 14 says no ATVs, motorbikes, or motorcycles. Were we gonna stop anybody on a motorcycle visiting from driving around the RV park to see what we really have?
Well, I have a note in there, but
Well, I have a
with the
question mark.
right, and I remember that conversation too. What it meant was like driving in a circle around that area because that's
But
what's-
again, what it says now is that you don't want those motorcyclists visiting the fort to drive through the RV park, the way I read it, one-on-one.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
And we have a lot of motorcyclists down here, so you don't wanna deny them to look.
Well, don't people put motorcycles on their RV on the back or
Some
something?
of them do.
Yeah,
But a lot of them come in here and spend the night
and vehicles and stuff too.
on their motorcycles only.
Yeah.
They often have a little tent or sleeping bag or something, but,
A lot of RVers have a motorcycle on the back of their bumper.
Well, they
That's
do.
what I just said. Yeah.
Well, it says
Yeah, but
it's
it's
okay
the-
for them to, but somebody off the street that lives in a motel was driving around the fort. They're not a renter in the RV park. The way I read what's in here, you're denying them to even come through there on a motorcycle.
Action.
That
No,
was not the intention of the
that's
committee.
the way it reads.
Well,
What it should-
it meant that we did not want them riding around the park.
all you
Right,
have to
that's
do
what I
is say
took it
no
as.
joyriding.
Yeah.
There you go. It needs to be tweaked a little more, that's all.
Just say,
And that's what we're doing.
My other question is, at the end of the meeting, or in the middle of the meeting too, I found that website that I gave to you guys, Mr. Lawrence. Did you look at it? Is it viable? Is it, because it takes care of a lot of the stuff that we're addressing here.
I'm sorry, I've slept since then, I'm not remembering that, I'm sorry.
Oh, I pulled it up on my phone and I gave you the address. It was texas6rvpark.com.
And you gave that to me to look at their rules and regs?
I did.
I didn't do it.
Okay.
What was that website?
Texas, TEXAS, number 6, RVpark.com.
well, I think that's something the committee needs to look at and should be a copy of that.
Yeah.
Is it, I suppose, an extensive website, so it's not something you print out at the end of. Or if you're just looking at the rules and regulations on there, maybe you can just print that out.
What about adding, in regard to what Maria said about the assessment, the violation? Failure to follow rules of the RV park and campus world will result in an assessment,
Enforcement is
enforcement assessment, or being asked to leave.
Well, we don't even have to write it that way. We just say failure to follow the rules or violation of these rules incur the following action. First offense, whatever. Second offense, whatever. Third offense,
Well,
you're
yeah,
out.
you could fine tune it to that, but I mean, we could have put in there that a violation assessment.
Well, right, that could be the second time. Like, so first offense, I give you a letter. Hey, dude, put pants on when you're outside. Second offense, I've written you one letter. This is your second warning. You're still out there like that. Now I'm giving you a $25 fine, fee, assessment, whatever you call it. Third offense, all right, let's kick you out. You've clearly not bought pants.
I
So,
understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is we should at least put in a violation assessment.
right, so, yeah, right, we put that as a second
Then you can list
option.
what that is in the order that you're saying.
Well, but the first offense doesn't necessarily give you an assessment. It tells you,
It's a letter.
Here's your
It's the
warning.
same- It's the same thing.
well,
Warning.
a warning letter,
Yeah.
followed by a second letter that includes that assessment, and then the third letter has a bigger assessment and kicks you out. I mean, that's what my suggestion is. And my suggestion is for that to be in the rules and regulations as well. That we tell people, if you're not following these rules, here's what happens.
Okay, you could do something like this, failure to follow rules, RV park rules, whatever, will result in colon, first offense, warning, second offense, enforcement assessment, third offense, removal from park.
It should say written warning. Everything should be in writing. It should be.
All right, first offense, written warning. So you want to add that in?
I think it really ought to be in there, but that way they're gonna have to sign off on this if they've read the rules and regulations. I mean, we've got that here.
And the second one
They're acknowledging
should,
that they've read it.
well, and the second one should be a written warning or written letter with attached to that fine or violation assessment, whatever you're going to call it. But it should also be in writing. Everything should be in writing.
Okay. First offense, written warning, second offense, enforcement assessment, third offense, removal from RV park.
Have you ever seen that happen?
And where would we
This
add
is
that?
new. It shouldn't happen in
Right
the
under
previous time.
number,
Well, I'm just making a list of.
Well, it should be at the very end. So underneath what Mr.
I would
Herman
just
has.
say what you did, leave the bold letters, failure to, et cetera, will result in.
In the following.
Colon,
I put in the following, colon.
right. Violation warning, a written warning, enforcement assessment, removal from the park. Simple as all that.
Yep. I agree.
okay.
And then on the very bottom, Fort Rock Springs is not responsible for loss, yada, yada, yada.
Well, yeah, we talked about that too.
This
It's
is-
not complete.
This is a condensed summary of our FCSA rules and regulations. If you wish to view the rules, please ask for staff member.
Well, we talked about that too, and we talked about removing that because they're gonna be given the rules and regulations. This is going into the rules and regulations. That's what we had talked about, so I don't know if that's still happening.
But there are more rules and regulations than this. I mean, this is
Right, and that's what,
rules and regulations, and there's some stuff in here that applies to here.
exactly, and that's what we talked about. That they were gonna be, that was gonna be part of this, and they were getting the whole thing. So they were held accountable to the whole thing. That, because
After our meeting with the lawyers, do you still wanna leave number 6 in there?
oh yeah, I had a note for that too, that's not, breed restrictions or,
The RV park's a little different than homeowners, but I'm just asking a question before anything's printed on this.
Well, I think after we put these together, they'll eventually, with the rest of our documents, be reviewed by the attorneys.
What do you talking about?
Number 6 in pet
No
rules.
pit bulls.
Pet rules.
No pit bulls,
On the
dogs,
other
Oh, you're
side.
talking
Rottweilers.
about pets. Oh.
Well, it's in this RV thing, that they will not be allowed in the RV at any time.
Well, he was basically telling us that you couldn't get into banning dogs by a certain breed. And
That's
he's
my
already
point.
told us that, so let's just take it out. You know, we don't need to have a half-hour debate on it.
No, you're right.
The attorney told us we shouldn't do it, let's not do it.
And number 4, you changed chained to chaining, correct?
Did what?
Number 4, rule number 4 in the pets, it should have been chaining instead of chained. Right, the rule says no crating or chained, but it should be chaining. And then the other notes I had on here was something about rotating spots every 180 days. Patron may stay for up to 365 days with Fort Clark Springs Association Recreation FRA membership, question mark. That was a question that we came up with. Stays that exceed 365 days must move to XYZ, is what I wrote down as a question as well. That was from our last meeting.
Discussion.
Correct.
Which one was that under?
It was other discussion that we had about spots, because I guess people stay in a spot for a long time, and we needed to address the long-term issue of that.
Permanence and
The
electric?
permanence, yeah. Well, not just electric, but also somebody staying in the same space for
Right, the same
over
spot.
a year, I guess was what the conversation was.
Looks like Joe's got something.
You know, part of the discussion we had with the committee was about permanence, and there was quite a bit of discussion that we didn't even want to have permanence in the park. I don't think you can do that. I would not, I think for right now, until you decide that you are not going to have permanence, I wouldn't deal with making them move every 365 days. That was just to try to, you know, one of the things with permanence is, if you have permanence, that's where the junk starts to develop around the RVs, because they got no place to put anything. And the first thing you know, you got Unit 3 in the RV park, and you don't want that. But if we got a good RV park manager, and he can keep the place cleaned up, and enforce those rules that we've had, you won't have that problem. And one thing on the motorcycles too, you know, and Bill did say it, but there are other places in the rules and regulations to discuss about riding motorcycles and four-wheelers. And the problem really comes in probably more so with the kids. You see kids riding around the RV park on the four-wheelers, the golf carts, and they just assume that they're in the RV park, they're not on a public street, so they can do it. But the other rules address that, so you should be, one way or the other, you should be covered with them. And I don't think it was ever the intention to pass out a full packet of the Fort rules and regulations, because now you got a book, so you might want to consider that.
But that's what we're doing. We're redoing the rules and
Right.
regulations, and we're trying to put everything
Yeah.
that needs to be in there, and take out what is no longer, nobody enforces or whatever.
Correct.
That's what we're doing.
You know, and it's not to say that the RV park manager can't come up with some minor rules when he sees a problem. There's a sign over there that says $20 fine or $25 fine if you don't pick up after your dog. I'll bet that has never been enforced, but at least it's in somebody's mind that they want to keep this cleaned up, and I have to pick up crap, you know, so.
Well, that was one of the biggest, before I ran on for the board last year, that was one of the biggest complaints to everybody I stopped and talked to. That and the low-lying limbs, so they couldn't even get under the shade trees.
You know, the reason the dog thing was in there is that's because, you know, we looked at other RV park rules and they always had that in there. You know, it is a little bit of an issue with people leaving their dogs tied out, and you're always going to have somebody that's going to break the rule. But
So I want to rewind to something that you said. Why would the RV park be able to decide to impose fines for violation of rules when we were just talking about that? And that raises a question for me. So why can the RV park manager impose fines that weren't even in this document, And we were just told that the board is the only one who levies assessments / fines, whatever they're called.
It goes back many years where it started, when the law was different. And so that's outdated.
So
Could
then,
just be a threat.
but you can't do that.
But the board,
You know?
if the board
If you're
approves,
threatened with fines, you say, well, okay, I guess I can't do that, and they don't do it.
no, the board could approve, pre-approve, and give the RV park management the power to assess a posted enforcement assessment, I believe. It's board approved, it would have to be approved by the board. The RV park manager just can't say, well, we're gonna impose an assessment on you for $25 for failure to pick up after your dog. But the board can say that. The board can say, if you don't pick up after your dog, you'll be levied an enforcement assessment of $25.
And that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
You're putting some rules into effect that he can enforce. Other things that's not in here, if he wants something else enforced, then he needs to come back to management and the board. And maybe that needs to be put in at a different point in
Right,
time.
exactly.
But all rules and regulations do is, this is what we want as a community, and you can be fined. That's why, reason you've got rules and regulations.
Well, I understand all of that. I understand that completely. What I'm saying is that I just heard there's current policy of a current threat of a fine, and to my knowledge, this manager, it's Mr. Partlow, right? Right? To my knowledge, he started his tenure during our tenure here on the board. I haven't been told, oh, we need to impose fines for this, and it wasn't in any of the stuff that I saw for this meeting. So I think all of that needs to be in one umbrella with this. If you're not picking up after your dog, then, you know.
If he's in charge of the RV park as an employee and he finds people not respecting these rules and regulations whenever they're put in effect, as an employee, he has a right to request a written letter be sent to the violator.
And I'm fine with that. That's great with me, but
you're
again,
saying,
there's
you're
a,
saying that he's not allowed to do that.
no, I'm asking why is he currently imposing fines publicly posted or threatening or whatever it is?
The sign's been there for years.
Yeah, I don't think
Sign's been there for years.
He hasn't imposed any fines.
Well, I'm not saying he is. I'm saying why is that okay now? And we're just barely talking about this right now, and it doesn't have that in there as a practice that's currently happening.
Because I would, again, I don't want to assume, but I would assume that the rules that were in effect 10 years ago have not been changed. They are still the same rules, and whatever they were, he has the right, or whoever's in charge over there has the right to enforce the rules. Now, we're changing it.
So then that sign should be
But
removed.
Yeah, but we haven't changed them yet.
But that current
You're saying
policy,
somebody got a violation notice and it's not in our rules book now.
I'm saying if I go take my dog to the RV park and he poops and I don't clean it up, according to that sign, I can be fined $25. The board didn't approve that. And I could come back as the person that gets told, hey, you have to pay $25 fine. Tell me where the board approved that. We didn't approve that.
Are we making more out of this than is
Yes.
necessary?
I'm just asking, because
Please, let me,
he's talking about current policy, and we didn't know that.
Maria, please let me finish. There have been no fines assessed. There have been no warnings, written warnings issued to anybody. The sign is simply left over there from days gone by. And I don't think it's written anywhere actually that says we can't have a sign there. Maybe we can't impose it or enforce it, but there's nothing stopping, requiring us to remove that sign, which it will be, and everything will be brought into order when we do this. We don't have to go on and on about the fact that that sign is there.
Well, then I'll request that it be
Let's get this
removed.
straightened out and done and move on.
But isn't it in our regular rules and regulations that you shall pick up in?
Oh, well, that you pick up your animals stuff, yeah.
It is in the rules and
Yeah.
regulations there, so that follows through with the RV park, even with our guests.
Right, but there's no
Because this
fine for it.
supersedes any individual, yeah. So
Right.
then you have to, if you want to impose a fine, then you take them back into the regular rules and regulation where it states that, I believe.
Well, I understand that.
Well,
I'm saying that,
it's basically covered right here, but it says this is a condensed summary of our FCSA rules and regulations. So there
And I
are
wouldn't
more
wanna take
rules
it
and
out.
regulations.
Maybe we do need to put it in strictly the RV that is handed to the RV people like when they check in, maybe.
Yeah, you could put that RV related
Is
stuff
this-
with this.
Because this is what they sign off on.
But that was a big
They can
issue when I
read.
stopped and talked to people in the RV park. It was a big issue with a lot of them.
Well, it's
They
all
had
over the
pets.
fort.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, well, we've taken care of
All
how,
right.
so the other thing I had was in the, whatever document this was, looks like where they put their vehicle information, whatever, they need to put their pet information as well on this form.
Yeah, how many pets they've actually got with them, I guess, too.
Pet rules that we put in there must be registered at office.
Right, but when they register this, it didn't have their pet
Yeah, could there be-
information in
Could there
there.
be a spot on their, where they put all that information, how many?
Right,
pets
we
they've
had,
got?
we had decided that that was
And they should have
necessary.
a current,
Vaccination.
vaccinations also. I didn't write that in, but I remember us talking about it.
Yep. Did you have that in your notes?
okay, I have a proposal here for number 14. And I would change it to read thus. No joyriding of ATVs, motorbikes, or motorcycles in the RV park, period. All drivers must have a driver's license, period. That's it, to take care of the motorcycles.
Well, I agree with that.
No joyriding of
ATVs,
motorbikes or motorcycles in the RV park, period. Is that what you
yes,
said?
yes. And then the last sentence, all drivers must have a driver's
Driver's
license, and
license.
that's also in our rules and regulations somewhere.
Okay.
I think in
Does
the
that
rules,
take care of page 1?
I think in the rules and regulations, it says like 14 or something like that.
I thought it was.
Something like that. I'll look it
I thought
up in a minute.
Well, it should be 16. But
Well, mine, it goes down 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
We're talking about, I think they're talking about age, driver's license.
yeah,
Oh,
It's just, you know.
you want it separate from that?
No, leave it. Well, it just says all drivers must have a driver's license, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, you know, because you can get licenses. There used to be, I don't know if you can anymore, you can get hardship cases sometimes. Farmers' kids used to get them, I think,
yeah.
14, you know, because they were driving tractors on the, working on the farm, and they had to go out on the roads. Anyway,
Yeah.
The other question I have is visitors. That was a note from last time, visitors. So are RV park tenants limited to visitors, I guess is why that was a
Is that
question.
addressed there anywhere in that?
It's not.
I don't know, in
well,
all our years of RVing, I only ran into one RV park that required you to pay to have visitors come and visit you.
I'm
And
just asking a question.
I don't
Most RV parks that I run into don't really have anything other than that they must follow all the rules and regulations they're subject to.
And then going back to what the three questions that we raised from the last time about if you stay for up to, patron may stay up to 365 days with the Fort Clark Springs Association Recreation FRM membership. How are we addressing that question? That was a question we had last time. So if they're gonna stay for a year, are they going to be required to get, or longer than a year, are they gonna be required to get an FRM
I would take
membership?
that out.
I would. say
It's just a
no.
question that I wrote down from
Because
last time.
initially, we were thinking we didn't want permanents, or try to limit the permanents, and you're not gonna be able to do that. So you just take it out, let them stay there, because elsewise, if they gotta move, that becomes an issue, pick everything. Of course, if you move them, you can't get all the junk around the camper, because they're gonna have to pick it up and move it, but
I'm not talking about moving, I'm talking about having a recreational membership. Like after a certain point in time of being a tenant, as somebody staying in that RV park for more than 365 days, are we gonna require that they become recreational memberships to keep that tenancy?
See, I think that's a self-solving situation, because without the FRM membership, their monthly rate is about $100 or $110 a month higher. They save $100 or $110 a month by buying an FRM membership, so if they're gonna be there for a year, they'd be unwise not to have an FRM membership. Allows them to save, so for $35 or $45 a month, whatever it is, they save over $100 a month. The only play fact is the initial upfront of $150, but if they save over the $45, $50 a month after 3 months, they break even, and beyond 3 months, they're way ahead of the game by buying the FRM.
Well, shoot, they get a better deal than a member would if we're running our own facilities. I mean, we get, well, I haven't seen the final listing of the rental stuff, but why would they get a $100 break on their rent? And if we're gonna rent a facility as a living person that lives here, we only get like a $50 break for being a member. Just a rhetorical question.
Well, you know, as it stands right now, and that's what we have to deal with, they do get that kind of a break. So.
Well, then we should consider giving membership that kind of a break for,
It's financially to our benefit if they don't buy the FRM. We get more money from them. But
I think we should look at those rates, because
That's.
I think
I know, well, I know it's a different deal, but I'm not exactly a fan of that.
I think we have to look at a lot of rates and a lot of things around here.
Nothing in
However, that's not part of this.
Yeah.
the future, we might could go in there and Unit 3, which Unit 3 lots no longer will house hardly any type of a manufactured home. As the fort takes back some of those lots, that could become a residential RV park, full-time or something, I don't know. But like I said, most single wides anymore are at least 15, 16 wide, 16 or up wide. Those lots won't accommodate the newer homes. So eventually, we might look at Unit 7 and Unit 3 as we acquire those properties back, making that more like a residential RV type park. Just a
Yeah.
thought.
That's a thought that's been presented also. I think the RV committee looked at that.
Yes.
But
Perimeter type stuff on the
I'd
RV
say
park itself.
something down the line on
Yes,
that.
I agree.
And possibly even the workers that are in here that
Yeah,
would
that's the
have
thing.
individual spots.
That would
And
go-
leave bring our RV park back up to a real RV park and for overnighters or 1 month at a time. Anything that's here over that could maybe go to another time.
If you're gonna be a long-termer, that would be
Yes,
the place to go.
yes.
Yeah, right.
That's good.
Just a thought, but that's looking to the future.
Something to work on in the
It
future.
would solve other problems.
Yes, it would.
So now the acknowledgement of receipt of rules, last page of this, outside of adding the check-in and check-out dates.
I think we need to, the dog
the pet
situation.
info.
And their-
What's
the
it?
pet situation, that they register their pets on this also. Because they can only have 3 pets according to your rules here.
That's too many, but all right.
Let's say it's no more than 3 pets, but when we can move this down, that's in here, so they would be registering their pets along with their pets'
Alright.
inoculations.
So what kind of wording do we want? All campers, pets
Or just
must
please
be.
list your pets and give us their,
Well, why not just put.
Their
you've got
breed.
Vehicle,
Yeah.
Their breed.
vehicle, RV, additional vehicle, and then just put down pet information.
Well, you gotta tell them what information you want. So you want,
Say it was next year this time.
registered.
sorry, I can't hear. Are you guys talking to us up here? Oh, okay. We would want to know their breed, and we want to know when their vaccinations expire.
But you put down pet information, then you could add.
Right.
add your lines, yeah.
Right.
add your
yeah.
lines, But just put pet information for the start of this.
Yep.
All right,
Could I ask a question? Why do you care about a breed? Why do you want to know that? I'm curious.
Well, probably because if, let's say, there is a chocolate Labrador running around the RV park, administration can go to this page here and say, ooh, well, there's a tenant who has a chocolate lab. Maybe that's theirs. I mean, that would be the first thing that comes to mind because the animals are running around all over the place.
Certain breeds are more aggressive than others, and traditionally in RV parks, they will limit what your lawyer said you can't do, that breed, because they are more aggressive, like pit.
one comment, Joe, on the lawyer, he was also talking about our members, limiting members that lived here. I don't know, it's maybe possible that you can have different rules for an RV park of transient people. So that would be
That's
something,
just,
but for
you know-
the time being, we're safer just to, we can always add it in later.
It's just what you see when you go to other RV parks.
You're right.
And we use their rules as a guideline for some things, and that was one of them that we did use. It doesn't mean that you have to limit them, but it's what happens other places. But knowing, like Helena said, knowing what the breed is, if you got one running loose and security's looking for it, maybe they would help to know that.
Helps
Oh, I said
identify
that.
the owner.
Yeah.
At this point, can we wrap up for now the RV section and move on to the renters?
The only thing I would like to ask is, when can these things be put into something we can all see?
Well, I think when we get through when we finish going through all these, then we can have, look for someone to type it all up
Type it up and then.
and combine it into one document.
Are you hearing that?
And then I know the job that Helena did with some assistance, I understand, on the rules and regulation was fantastic. So we'll probably be looking for volunteers somewhere.
Well, I can type it up. That's easy.
Well, I just don't want it to drag on for 3 or 4 months. I'd like to see something wrote up, bring it back to us, then let us get with the
Do you
whoever,
have
the
the
management
template?
portion of it,
Whatever this is?
and let's get it done, not 6 months down the road, is what my question.
Oh.
Well, we'd have
Joe,
to-
who wrote
we'd have
this?
to
Who did
approve
this?
it at a board meeting anyway,
Yes,
so.
but we
You know,
won't, but I won't be able.
I had said this when I did the report.
No, I agree.
Most of the rules that are there are already rules that are in the rules and regulations that we have existing today.
Right, but who has this document? This document? Who typed
Actually,
it?
the RV park had that particular document, and they were passing it out. We refined it a little bit, and then, that's pretty much what all the rules are. They've been there, we redefined them just like you have.
Joe, can you send it to us in a Word format, please?
Yeah,
Email it to me in a Word format.
I
Yes,
can.
that's what she's asking for.
Yeah. It's
I'll
easy.
forward it to you.
That's great, thank you.
All right, can we move on to the renters? Oh, I know some people here that are very interested in that. What I have here, which is I believe, is this a report from them?
There is, yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
it says
Yep.
Sincerely Renters Committee, and what it is a sheet of paper here with some verbiage and then a form, a tenant registration form like this.
Right, that's what I've got too.
Yeah, I guess, some of the questions that I know exist, they aren't necessarily my questions, but the questions out there is, one, is a tenant that rents from an owner entitled to the benefits of the membership that is attached to that property?
No.
I don't believe they are, no.
Okay, that's one question. Another question is on the registration form, a couple of years ago, the Texas Property Code was amended and changed dealing with renters, and it really severely limits the amount of information that we as an association can demand of our renters. It basically boils down to their name and contact information, name, telephone number, and address of where they're going to be renting. And if we can require a copy of the lease, but then the lessor has the right to redact almost everything on that lease, so that we can't see it, so it doesn't make much sense. So with that in mind, how often do we want them to have to register? As it stands now, I believe they're supposed to register every 6
Every
months.
6
I
months.
think we ought to change renewed to reviewed.
Well, we had talked about this at the last meeting, and I had said it's not realistic. Because, like, going to the first page, the things that we had talked about last time was adding a non-member tenant is a adding long-term guest of the landlord. And then we removed or acting agent at the end, because if something is levied against, if something is levied because of what that tenant does, it's levied against the property owner, not the acting agent. We talked about that. And then
The landlord is responsible for the actions of the tenant as far as our rules and regulations are concerned.
the property owner, so whoever the owner is. And that's why we removed acting agent, because there's no acting agent for a property owner.
Where did you have?
It's right here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right, and then we included at the top, so where it says currently a non-member tenant is a guest, we added long-term guest, because in our bylaws, we define guests by long-term and not long-term. You have a question, ma'am?
I do. If you classify them as guests, doesn't that lead to the assumption that they have the ability to use the amenities like a guest at the hotel?
Negative, because in the rules and regulations, it says in there, and obviously we can adjust that too, that a long-term guest will require
All right, I just
membership.
about that terminology.
Because that's where it led us to talking about recreational membership for those long-term guests. And that's what I have in my notes here.
So you would want to refer to them as renters.
No, because they're not our renters. If we, like, don't we have I don't know if we do or not, but I thought we had some sort of apartment or something that we rent, right? Yes, no, maybe? So those people are renters of the fort because they're renting our facilities. If I am a landlord if I have my own renters, they're not the fort's problem. If something happens on my property, whether it's my tenant that did it or me that did it, it's my problem as the owner. And the fort should only care about whoever the owner is on record.
I was just concerned
So-
with the terminology of classifying them as a guest.
Right. No, and I understand that. But that's why we had added long-term.
Somewhere, and I don't know where it's at, Fort Clark, the people that are renting from Fort Clark are the motel guests, that apartment, and the RV park. Those are considered Fort Clark guests, as far as the fort themselves are responsible for.
Correct.
That's the reason they get a discount at the golf course, or they get to use the amenities we have, because they are paying Fort Clark rent. Whatever, it's a week, a month, or whatever. So any other renter that does not rent from Fort Park is a guest of the actual owner of the property.
Right, that's correct.
You got a hand up in the comments.
So maybe we
Oh.
need to start.
Ms. McBride?
Yes, guest has been a tricky word versus renter. And in our revised rules and regs, we define 5 different types of guests. So they're not renters, in our opinion. So you'll come to that later when you get the changes. in
Actually,
the
we don't
rules.
classify that in the 5. Renters aren't in the 5.
Right, long-term guest is what I
It's under
think,
renters.
yeah.
Short-term and long-term are renters.
Anything over 30 days is supposed to be, 30 days or shorter is short term. Anything over 30 days is considered long term.
Long-term, okay.
Are we gonna go, let's start right now by agreeing to, do we agree to go along with that? 30, they're here for 31 days or more, they're a long-term renter?
That's what something says in our, somewhere in our.
It's in our bylaws.
It's right here.
It's in our bylaws.
Yes,
Well, that's the proposal. The ones that we gotta look at are the what is current.
that's not been approved.
Yeah, that's the proposal.
No, I know it hasn't been approved, but if we approved it, it's gonna affect this.
Well, we're gonna meld them,
Right,
merge them all
okay.
together,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
believe. But for right now,
I think it's already in your documentation.
Yeah,
Either
and
your
we don't-
bylaws
we don't
or your-
wanna change it.
No,
so
We-
long
Yeah,
as-
that's why we just said long-term guest. In there.
a long-term renter for 30-plus days. And the next question, we're gonna have to get back, I think, they need, the tenant and the landlord need to be registered at the office, correct?
yes.
Okay, and with the registration form that they have filled here, I would say is workable in compliance with the law. For instance, it's asking for a driver's license number. I don't think you can do that. You may be able to do it in order for them to get a sticker to come in the gate.
What's the,
Well, I have to give my driver's license when I get my sticker. or when
Yeah,
I
you
take
yes,
do.
yes,
it.
yes.
But
So-
this is for, to be a tenant information.
right, because it says that they're supposed to
which is
get a
separate than
special
getting the sticker.
sticker.
Yeah,
So we can ask for their mailing address, their name, list of any other occupants. And,
insurance, vehicle insurance.
well, that would be again, getting the sticker to
Yes,
come in.
yes, it would.
I didn't have to show insurance to get my sticker.
You did.
Mm-mm.
Did you show it originally?
When,
I mean, I am insured, but I didn't have to show it.
Well, theoretically, you can't get a registration without having insurance.
That's true, yeah. So the fact that you have a current registration on your car,
Right. Now, you could get, you can get around that too. You can get renters, you can get insurance for a month, pay it by the month, and then after 2 months, just stop paying.
oh, never thought of that. Okay. So outside of taking off the driver's license number is this tenant registration information, which also includes the property owner and a manager. Is that acceptable to all of us?
I would think we have to know whose property it is.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say instead of.
what is the
pro-
current process? Does anybody really know what the current
I don't
process
think
is
there's
for
anything
renters?
being
Well, there's
enforced.
you don't think nothing's being enforced?
Well, that's what we were talking about last time. Last time we talked about, because it says tenant cards in here, and I asked, what's a tenant card? And then it was discovered that we don't really deal with that. People aren't getting those cards. And then the other question was the stickers. The tenants aren't getting a different color sticker than owners. And I've proven that because 2 of my friends were renting property here before they purchased, and they have the same sticker I had. And so I had made a suggestion last meeting that maybe we get a big round one that's similar to the one you get on your golf cart, that's very identifiable, and it gives security a quicker way of figuring out who the
I
tenant
know this
was.
paperwork here, I know what the
Yeah.
process used to be.
Well, I know.
haven't been
Right.
rental property and so-
I don't-
But we have an employee here that does the registering for the board.
Right.
And who is that? And then how does the security people fall into play with that and making sure that the people have registered and everything? What is the current process?
On the
And who
back,
handles it?
on the back, it's under tenant registration procedure.
Let me recommend this, that if we can do as we're doing now and revise the rules and regulations so that they are indeed enforceable, then we need regulations that we can enforce. And if one component is enforceable, another component is not enforceable, then the whole thing gets out of whack. I'm just suggesting that what we do is, let's examine these rules and regulations, let's find out what is enforceable, and when we have finally one that is put together and bless it, and then it will be duly enforced, it will be strictly enforced.
But what is the current process for a tenant?
I'm not able to recite that off the top of my head, I'm just not.
Okay.
Okay. On
I mean, I
the,
think it's very important that the membership knows it, renters, landlords know it. The board needs to know what the current process really is and how does it flow from one to the other.
Well, we can fix that with this,
We're
but
gonna
he
modify it.
doesn't know it right now. He
but
can't
under
tell
the
you.
tenant registration, and it's actually the landlord and the tenant registration, that 6-month period, what are we gonna do with that? Are we going to?
Well, I wrote that it's not realistic.
I just
It's
put,
not.
in the first one, under date of lease, I put down must be reviewed every 6 months.
But again, that's not realistic. So
Really? You don't think it needs to be reviewed every 6 months?
I think if somebody is saying that they're in a 1-year lease,
Mhm.
it's the property owner's responsibility to make sure that we have that information updated. It's not the fort's responsibility to go chase down a tenant and say, hey, tenant, I need you to update this. Because the fort's responsibility is to chase after the members. Hey, property owner, I need you to ensure this is right. And unless we're going to impose a fee to a property owner and assume that responsibility administratively, I don't think that's a fair thing to put on admin. I just don't. In Hawaii, when I had a rental there, it was my responsibility as the landlord to make sure that my tenant was registered and that my tenant was current. And if it wasn't, every letter came to me, and I'm the one who had to address it with my tenant.
Then we can just change this to say, must be renewed at the end of each lease.
So what happens
At the
when,
renewal of each lease. So if they have a 1-year lease, and when it comes up for renewal at the end of the year, they'd have to
register
renew
all.
the registration. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I just know some problems I had as a manager back in the day, that people will come in here, they're really not married, they've got a year's lease, 3 months into it, they split up, both people still have a member gate pass, and there were problems, caused a lot of different things with a lot of things. I don't know how you can do it, but again, they rent a property, they break up, both of them still have a pass, but yet they're on this lease. And if you're not renewing it, or looking at it.
But that falls on the property owner. I mean,
We can say must be renewed at the renewal or cancellation
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
lease.
or somehow that,
And then if that happens, the landlord can cancel the lease, and it's up to them to have the proper verbiage in their lease, then they would have to come down and notify us.
I don't think that needs to be on that. I think it needs to be as part of the rules for the tenants.
What do you think should be under anything?
Well, I don't think it needs to say
I just know a problem.
anything. I think it needs to be addressed in this page right here. Not put on the, I mean, I don't know. It's not the fort's responsibility to babysit the tenants. It's just not. And
No, well, this doesn't make it, this puts it on the landlord and the tenant, they have to renew their registration. When they renew the lease or cancel the lease, the registration has to be updated. and that's responsibility of the landlord, basically.
And does the renter have a separate color, different color pass?
Well, they're
Now,
supposed
I know they
to.
used to, I hadn't noticed it lately.
Can we just get one thing taken care of before we go on to pass, please?
You were gonna say something.
Are you comfortable with this registration must be renewed at the end of any, end or cancellation of the lease agreement?
Yeah, that's fine. If you absolutely have to have a statement in there, then that's fine.
Or any change in, any change of, somebody may still lease the property, but if they split up, how do you know that one of them's sticker's been pulled out of it? Or any change in tenancy?
You tell me.
It's not our problem. It's the
Well, we've got people
responsibility
in here
of
that
the
stirred up our
homeowner.
grounds. It has to be our.
So if we see something
Huh?
wrong,
And call security, you can't get involved in people's private lives.
right, so if we see, like, if I see somebody that I know doesn't live here anymore, my only thing I can do is report it to the front office, or security, whoever, at which point in time, if I make out, I don't even know how I would tell them who it was, but if I knew who it was, then at that point, they go look in their records and they say, okay, yeah, this person is a tenant allegedly for this property. All the fort should be doing is going to the property owner and saying, you have somebody who doesn't live here anymore, fix it, or XYZ.
You also
You know?
have members who don't really give a rat's you-know-what about it anyway, because if they're not paying their dues anyway, they're not gonna to comply to what you're asking them to do.
Well, that's a different situation, and then we need to address that, you
I
know?
realize that, but I'm just saying, as it stands, if if a member who's renting property lives in Chicago, he don't care what's going on here, as long as he gets his money every month from the renter, right?
I was gonna say the assessments, we
I
can
understand
continue
that,
to assess the
But
heck
the
out of
point being
them.
is that he's not close enough here to be held responsible.
I lived in Texas with a house in Hawaii, and if I got a letter from the association in Hawaii, it was a priority.
What could they do to you if you did not follow the rules?
Continue adding fines to a fine in Hawaii was $350, boom. And if you get a fine there and you don't pay it, they double it. And then they keep doubling it.
Okay,
And
so-
then after a certain point, at a certain threshold, then they report you. And then it becomes a creditor issue. So you can get, I mean, it just.
I understand that, but the point being is that we have to set this up so that we can do that. We don't do that now. So we
Right.
have to have statements and rules that say, okay.
I'm not
you know,
contesting that. I'm just saying that it's not the Fort's
But you're saying
responsibility
take
to
out
chase
a
the tenant.
statement because it doesn't apply. I think it applies. I think, especially security, I think every 6 months, a renter's sticker should be reviewed to make sure that they're still renters.
Right, but if we're going to impose extra work for the administration to have to babysit a tenant when the responsibility is the property owner, then we need to talk about fees to impose onto a property owner for us to have to essentially do more work
Right, but the
for
point
that
being is
babysitting process.
If this sticker, a car sticker, if the tenant is not here anymore, moves out, but has his sticker on his car, security only sees the sticker,
I understand that.
right? So, we have to have something teeth-wise that security can just stop any renter anytime he wants, for example, and let me check and see if your sticker is good.
But unless you're gonna change the way the sticker looks every 6 months.
Well, I understand what you're saying, I agree, there's a whole lot of
Yeah,
stuff to this, but security has to have the right to
Which they
stop
do.
somebody, take the sticker off that car, if they are no longer here in whatever capacity, and refuse them to come in. Or give them a
They
detention.
can.
Who's responsible to
Let's
take
hold
the
it, hold
sticker
it.
off right now?
Let's hear from Griswold.
Okay, I've got a question and a suggestion. In our policy right now, if you own an automobile here that's got a sticker on it, it's in our procedures, and you sell it, you're responsible to take that sticker off. Why don't we put something of that sort of wording in this renter agreement so that the renter is responsible to take that ticket?
I think that's in here, Bruce.
The property owner should be responsible for that.
No, you.
I know, but the
absentee
renter
property.
has to know that he's responsible to do that. Because the property owner cannot do that if the renter's gone.
But,
When
well,
the renter comes back, there's a sticker on his car that allows him to come in.
well, I mean, that's like a
Only-
twofold thing.
At what point are you going to question this person that has this, illegitimate sticker?
Well, that's twofold.
I
The
know
first
it's
thing
illegal
is,
Because they don't even do it with the owners of automobiles.
well, the first thing is, the tenant should have that definable sticker. They should have that definable
And it
sticker.
needs to be in writing.
And it should
In
be,
this agreement.
I really think that that golf cart one is a good size, and then you write on it when it expires, and that's easy for someone to see when you're driving in at whatever speed some people drive in.
Which one does a golf cart get?
From the city, when you get the city one on the back,
That's a permit.
Then that's
You have to
another,
pay
that's
for that.
another cost to all the membership to buy those.
You have to pay for
again,
that.
I'm saying, right now, we're told that there's 2 stickers. There's not 2 stickers, because I know 2 people renting that didn't get a separate sticker. They got the sticker I have. So the first part of that problem is they need to have a sticker that's separate, that defines that they are a tenant. And that will make it very easy to spot. And then you just look quickly at the number that's on that, and if it's 2019, yay. If it's not, well, then we got a problem. And then we can address that at that point. So that's the first part of it. The second part of that twofold thing is that it is not the Ford's responsibility to babysit a tenant. It's our responsibility to make sure that the property owner is doing what they're supposed to do to abide by the rules. And so even if they're in a different state, it's still their property. They still have to pay taxes. They likely have a mortgage. They probably don't want a creditor running down their neck asking them why they owe an association $2,000 or $3,000. And they probably want to go buy something else later on in their lives, so they want a good credit rating to be able to do that. And so what I'm suggesting is that unless, and honestly, I don't even see how administration would even be able to track all of this for a tenant. I don't see it. I don't know anything about what they do up in the front, but I don't see how they would be able to do that. So if we are going to impose that additional workload on them, then we can't do that for free on behalf of a property owner, because that is a property owner's problem. If they have people rotating in and out of their door, that is not our problem. That is their problem. Our problem is to make sure that we are not violating the rules.
I think we understand your position on that and do not necessarily disagree. But just, Grizz, it does say in the present one that the tenant, if they terminate their lease or their use of the property, they agree to remove the sticker from the
I'm aware of that.
car. It's already in there.
Maybe I put that in bold letters.
It actually is in bold letters.
All right, there you go.
It says, in the event I terminate my Fort Clark Springs rental property, I agree that I must remove my gate sticker from all vehicles. My gate sticker must be renewed every 6 months, blah, blah.
But see, then I don't even agree with that. My gate sticker must be renewed every 6 months. Because that is the cost to the membership. If they've got a lease, and their lease says it expires December 31st, 2019, then their little sticker should say 12/19, and then that's it.
Right now, what we're discussing is when the tenant's gate sticker for their vehicle should expire, is that correct?
Right, well, I'm just commenting on what you just read.
We can go on and on about all kinds of things, and we're never gonna accomplish anything.
Well,
So,
I'm commenting on what you just read. So,
I would like to just see each person what they think about the gate sticker, the sticker vehicle sticker. Should it have to be renewed every 6 months or only at the end of the lease agreement? Is that basically where you're at, Marie?
my name's Maria. But yes, I think that if we're going to have a separate sticker for tenants, we should have the ability, just like when you go get your permit downtown,
I just
to have
wanna know.
12/19 if that's when it expires,
You
and
want
then
the
it makes it easy
sticker
for
renewal?
security.
At the end of their lease, or every 6 months, or every year, or when do you think it should be renewed?
End of their lease.
Hmm?
End of the lease.
Okay, thank you very much. How do the rest of us feel on that? Deborah, you want every 6 months?
I'd rather have it every 6 months.
I wouldn't have to renew it, you can just review it.
Review it.
Review
Okay,
it every 6 months, to make sure that the tenant is still here.
okay.
May I suggest something? Just toss it out for thought, because it's just now occurring to me. What if the sticker is issued to the property owner, in the property owner's name, to give to his tenants? And that expires every 6 months, as Debbie's suggesting, and that then keeps a contact between the tenant, the landowner, and the administration, and we can make sure that the people that we think are here truly are here.
Is that gonna be enforceable? In other words, are we gonna be able to monitor it to know when each one of these individual stickers
If we,
expire?
well, if we have,
Because that's what
different-
Maria's
right, and-
concern is, all the extra work and expense connected with
Well,
that.
but there's another step, and that is to have different, change out the colors every 6 months, and charge that back to the landowner.
So now we're talking about
Property owner.
fees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a sticker fee. Sticker fee every 6 months.
Yeah, but but what if a guy's renting for 2 months?
Or
if
at
the
the
guy's
end of the
renting for a
lease.
year and then he's on a month to
It's-
month, then how are you gonna monitor that? I've got
The
a year
land,
lease
the property owner has to come in and get a sticker for his tenant.
every
right.
month.
He would have to, if he's gonna change out every
That
month.
happened, because my house didn't become available, my other one I didn't get bought. So a lot of people come after they've got a year's lease, or if their property gets sold within 6 months, and they wanna move off, but now you've got a year's lease, and if you're not monitoring that anyway, Fort Clark still has some responsibility for people on here.
Every 6 months, we're
Okay.
gonna know.
How
It
often
can
do
be
you
a-
change your stickers now?
There's not gonna be a perfect solution
there's
that
not.
covers every,
No.
But I'm just
everyone else.
suggesting that this can be done for the tenant. It is a sticker that is actually issued to the property owner, who then puts it on the car of the tenant. Anytime that tenant changes, you're gonna need a new sticker.
Is
Come
that a
in and pay a
question?
sticker fee, come in and pay the sticker fee for your new tenant. That takes care of everything.
Do you guys have a question back there?
You're not talking about color coding for each month, right?
No.
I hope not.
January's blue and
No, there'd be a
February's
current
red.
color.
I do have a question though. The people that are sitting out there, is there someone out here who is a property owner that does rent out their property? So how do you deal with that? Tell me how you do it.
That's why I'm here, to see what the requirements are, because I wasn't even aware that the tenant was responsible for removing his sticker.
Who did you think was
I knew that
responsible?
it was responsible for an owner when they sold their vehicle to remove the sticker, and it don't happen, but I know it's the responsibility. But I wasn't aware of it, apparently I've got 4 versions of that at home, and I never noticed it.
So have you been renting property for a while?
Yes,
So then when you have a changeover in your tenants, what do you do?
We don't have
I
changes.
try not to address that issue by being a good landlord, and it's worked. I've got, my renters have been there from day one.
Oh, so you've never had to like
I
move
don't-
people out and
I
move
don't
back
want to
in?
do that
Okay.
either. I only want to start that. I want to be a good landlord.
And most of the tenants
But
that live here are
the
a
bottom
home.
line is, I'd like to know what the rules really are, and, you're talking fees that I'm gonna be responsible for. I'm just here to gain some information on where we're going with this change.
So another question for you would be, do you feel like it's the fort's responsibility to manage your tenant, or do you feel like it's our responsibility to communicate with
We
you?
want Fort to stay out
What
of it.
we want, what we've done, and it works very well for me, I've got my own lease,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a copy of it, and you require that copy of that in your rules and regulations. My lease that I make with my renters says that they will honor all of the published Fort rules. including the ones as they change. It's just there. So I'm here to, hear what the changes are so I can relate that to my renters.
The contract basically should reflect what the rules of the fort are.
That's what I'm saying.
And that the
Exactly.
renter has to abide by
By
those
all of
rules.
them.
Right.
So then, are there any property managers here? No.
I don't see
Okay.
one.
Okay. Well, I wanted to know what people do. I
But
mean,
you got two types of landlords. You got people who actually rent out property that is not responsible for that property.
property manager.
And, yes,
Hmm.
and, I know, there's things that have happened in the past which even the old things here, well, you can't charge me these things. I didn't even know when my tenant moved out. And that was another excuse people used. You got a property you're renting out, you don't know when they leave, and you're not responsible for the fees that they were supposed to be taken care of. A lot of people didn't even know they were responsible for those renters. When you rent a property, if you're not told that you're responsible for anything that happens, if I come out here as your renter and shoot you, as a landlord, I'm responsible for that guest in here that's renting my property. You have an accident, you're renting something fully furnished, and it's a short-time lease or something, and they come in here and run over a child and you never see them again. I'm responsible. Yes, I am. Yes, I
The
am.
property owner?
The property owner is responsible for any guest in here, even if you're a renter.
Well, that is in the rules, that
Yes.
you're responsible
Yes.
for that, yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Well, I still think that the gate sticker thing, I like that what you're saying about giving it to the property owner, that's fine. I agree with that, if the property owner is there.
It's not there. Yeah, but if he's
So-
not there, too bad.
So what would you do in an instance where the property owner is in Hawaii, and that's where they live? What would you do in that instance?
If I was a tenant, I'd be talking to somebody about getting me a sticker, because I don't have one.
And having to stop every day is a nuisance.
Well, when you have a property owner, their property manager or representative, I think anybody that rents property, and maybe that's something we should put a requirement, that if they're not here,
Well,
then
property manager.
Well, I was about to ask a question about property managers. In the various states, there's various rules to who can be a property manager, and be paid for that. Since I'm not a realtor, Debbie, do you know anything about that? If there's,
Yes, I am not a broker. My broker had to be on board before I could manage property. By state of Texas, you have to have a broker where everything comes into a certain account. As a realtor, even myself with property manager, my broker wasn't on board with it. Matter of fact, that's one of the reasons I quit, because it got to be such a hassle. You have to have a Texas realtor's license, a real estate license, to be a property manager legally.
okay, so then that now defines,
Unless it's your own property.
right, so I was gonna say, unless
You
you're
do
the
your own
property owner.
properties, But you cannot do for another person without a license.
So if I wanna go do it on the side, I'd have to be
You'd have to-
a licensed real estate
Yes.
person
Yes,
with a broker that supports that.
yes.
So for us here, wouldn't it behoove us to have a list of property managers that are allowed to do this business?
I'm not sure I want to get into the business of regulating licenses. However, if I have a license, a clinical license, and if I know that someone is practicing without a license, it's my duty to report that to somebody in the state.
state,
TREC, Texas Real Estate Commission.
So every licensed realtor would have the responsibility of reporting that if that was known.
in the
Okay.
meantime, not to be boring, but what are we gonna do about the stickers?
Well,
Car stickers, if we get back to that.
well, I have made a recommendation. I just came up with it today. I'd like to study it further, but I think it's doable.
Well, and that's why we started talking about property managers, because if the owner is not physically here,
Then
Who
you give it to
can
the
be-
property manager, right?
but who can be a qualified person that we're gonna accept? Because that's where that question was going. Like, if there's a law that says you have to be a specific thing to be able to be a property manager, aside from a property owner,
But I don't think we wanna get into that, because then you're gonna start getting in, whoever the owner informs us is their contact person here. Should be
Designated
adequate. It's
representative.
not up to us to enforce the Texas real estate law rules. And then you start getting into determine what is a property manager.
Well,
If all I am is a contact person who picks up the sticker and gives it to the tenant, does that make me a property manager? I don't know. So,
I would be.
we don't
I
wanna
would be
get involved in all
satisfied-
that.
I would be satisfied with a letter from the property owner saying so-and-so represents me.
That's all you
I'd
need.
be happy with that. Otherwise, somebody else may be leasing his property.
Okay,
So
so you're
as a
gonna
squatter.
do some study and come up with how we can do that.
Yeah.
Could you also look into what the city does, like with those big stickers, and if that would be more cost effective than changing them out every 6 months? Because I just don't see that being cost effective.
Well, it is if you charge it back to your landowner, your property owner.
There would be a sticker fee.
Sticker fee comes with it.
We're gonna stick them with a sticker fee.
Yeah, there you go.
But then again, how are you going to enforce that?
You don't get the sticker. If you don't get the sticker, it doesn't go in the windshield, then if it's not on the windshield, they're not coming through. At least not without being stopped each time.
But that's if the property owner is on board with that, because they might just say, well, who cares? We just-
Then the renter can't get in.
Yeah, then they don't.
Then they don't get in,
Okay.
period.
I mean, I'm not saying that we don't manage anything right now, but I'm just saying that
And it could
it's a
just be
lot
as
to.
little as the cost of the sticker.
Hey, folks, listen, I just came up with the idea a minute ago. Give me a chance to develop it a little bit.
You know,
Well, yeah, could you also look at a sticker where you just write down, like, it's ghetto, but it's very
A renter
identifiable.
sticker could be like a motor vehicle sticker, you put the month and the date on it,
Yeah.
period, of the year.
I've
Simple
got a
sticker.
problem with what you're talking about with the marker, because I've got a golf cart that is, got one of the city stickers on it,
Mhm.
and I'll tell you right now, that marking is missing. The date and all that is no longer there.
They just give you
Take
the
it
sticker.
down.
Not permanent, you need something.
Well, even if it's the stickers, like he's saying, with the number, number stickers.
Right.
I'll figure it out.
It's just a different type of sticker. You have a member
Yeah,
sticker, which
on top
is
of a
what we
sticker.
have, right? You're gonna change it every year, color-wise, it's the sticker's the same, just change the color, or whatever. A renter sticker
Give us a different color.
is like a registration for your motor vehicle sticker. It's got the month and the date. That's
Well, at
it.
one time, the renter sticker was green.
Yeah.
At one time, it was green.
Yes, so there's some of those.
So maybe
Promise
just
you,
give us some
I'll figure it
options.
out.
Okay, let's go on. The question is then, do we want to renew it every 6 months or review it every 6 months?
Review it,
Review it.
review it.
Well, I think that's
Yearly
contingent on what we
review
tell
at
him.
6 month point.
If they come in for a sticker, they're gonna,
I don't, yeah, that's what I'm
yeah,
saying.
we'll
like
they'll
you're-
present, we'll look at the current data each time they come in for a sticker.
Do we have, how many renters do we really have registered? Do you have a
Oh,
clue?
man, I don't know.
You have no idea.
Well, I can find out, but I don't know that off the top of my head.
And are all of them, up to date on their
I
assessments?
would doubt it. Oh, the property owners?
Uh-huh.
No, I can tell you not.
Then why are they getting to rent their properties?
They
Our
are,
declaration says they shouldn't.
ma'am, I'm putting them in the hands of the attorney to pursue them.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
all right. I just think that needs to be answered.
Okay, flipping over, we're now.
In fact, that's one of the cases that are being brought to
Go
you.
back to that same front page, if you will. Up here, you're gonna say review, right?
Where it says must be,
I think we need to wait and see what he comes up with
Now,
for the
the other
stickers.
question is, you've got, down here, it says, my gate sticker must be renewed every 6 months.
So I got reviews.
Okay, that's what I wanted to.
Yeah,
and whose responsibility is it going to be to do that? Is it gonna be the tenant or is it gonna be the owner of the property?
Well, that's what Mr. Lawrence is gonna tell us. He's gonna do an investigation on some options, and then he's gonna tell, that's what I took out of that, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to
Okay.
put up a little plan. I'll put it before you, and I'll tell them whether that suits you.
Right, as much as we could put on the owners, I'd prefer to do that. Because,
That's where I was heading.
right, because that's their responsibility.
can we
So
flip
then-
over now under the tenant registration procedure?
Where are you?
Back
The
page
other,
back
back.
other side of this registration. Take it down.
Which one are you on?
Here, on the
On
back.
the
Just
very
flip
back
it
of
over.
the registration
Back to
form. On the back of the
Right, that one right
registration
there.
form.
No, that one.
Yeah,
That one.
okay,
That's the one.
right here.
Yours
I
you
got-
printed
I got
on one
separate, I don't
page.
have
Yeah,
the-
he's got a different kind of packet.
Okay,
You got a special one?
no, it's just separate paper, 3 separate sheets.
The question I had on this one was the tenant card thing, and which we talked about at length last time. But this will change if Mr. Lawrence is gonna put this on the property owner, so.
Okay, the purpose of the tenant cards, is that to allow them, what, use of our facilities or?
Yeah,
I don't know what the
get,
tenant registration.
what is the use of the tenant
Yeah.
card? I don't know.
I think that can be eliminated.
I do too.
Who was on this committee here that, anybody?
No,
I can tell you it was Stan Metcalf.
Mary Frances Partlow
And Chuck Field.
and Chuck Field.
And Don Taylor. Don Taylor?
Don Taylor.
Yeah,
And
That
then
list
Ken
is on
Knox
the
was
back
on it
there.
and never showed up.
Oh, that's right. Ken Knox was on it and didn't make it to the meeting. Yeah. The other comment I had was
Wait a minute,
what?
what was decided on the term, on the number one, the tenant cards will be issued, we're taking that completely out?
That's what I thought. 'Cause-
That's what I'm just asking, I
oh,
want to
okay.
make sure.
Yeah.
And also, the statement above it, at the end of 7-day pass, security will issue a tenant a cross
that's all gonna be
sticker.
changed after.
Okay, ask tenant to report,
And then the last one should be eliminated, I think, too.
right.
At the termination of lease, tenant cards must be returned, or they can't return them if they had never got them, so.
Yeah, but I mean, it is one,
Mr. Herman, I'd say scratch through that whole section till we
Yeah,
get
'cause he's
something
gonna
else.
rewrite that.
Yep,
you take out tenant cards,
yep.
Well, the whole section.
The whole
Because
section.
he's gonna modify that.
rewrite,
And then we did scratch out all of the rules and regulation portion last time too, because they're gonna be given the rules and regulations. And this is just this is not an accurate reflection of them all.
we're
So we had
eliminating
scratched it out
that
last
whole
time.
section here?
Right, and then we put,
They should be given a rules and regulation book.
yes,
as a,
that's what we discussed. That-
Okay,
Right.
so it's agreed all of that goes.
So right now, that's.
And that's also a responsibility of the owner.
And I think that it should be made clear to them when they receive that they are subject to the rules and regulations as are gonna be revised. And that failure to comply with those rules and regulations could bring consequences to the property owner.
Right.
Then the property owner can have an agreement with them, if you get me into trouble, you're out.
Okay, so that verbiage is gonna go here?
I think that verbiage needs to go in, so back on the front, where it says in the event of terminating, yada, yada, yada. Above that, it should say I understand that I'm responsible for the rules and regulations of the Fort Clark Security or Fort Clark Springs Association, and that my actions can result in consequences to the property owner.
Yeah.
Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah,
I thought that was already there.
I don't read that here on this
I think
form.
what we're looking at is the proposal of those committee members is what we're looking at.
yeah, right.
I was thinking that the agreement that the renter signs has a copy of the rules and regulations attached to it.
I
As it
think-
is right now, and,
Yes,
you know, says something to the effect that they're responsible to read them and adhere to them. That's coming from the fort. I think that's the way it is right now.
Right.
It is.
And the only thing I'm doing is emphasizing that failure to comply with these rules and regulations may bring consequences upon the property owner, your landlord. That needs to be clearly stated as well.
the tenant has to sign, the property manager or owner has to sign, they have to date it.
Okay, well, the next, if I can read the first paragraph of the next page, Says a non-member tenant is a guest of the landlord, which means the landlord is responsible for the actions of the guest while on the port. Should a tenant violate any rule or regulation adopted by the board of directors, such as speeding or littering, and a special assessment can be levied against the property owner or acting agent.
Yeah,
Right.
and that all has to be reworded, because, of course, we don't do anything about speeding, that's not for us to do.
Yeah.
And it's an individual enforcement assessment. And
As I saw,
you
management
can't do
was
that to
very
the
busy
agent.
this morning.
Right, and that's what I said originally, that we took that off, but
So this all needs to be reworded.
But when they're signing this document, it needs to be part of the understanding that they understand that they're responsible for abiding by these rules, because there's nothing in here currently that says that, and that failure will result in the consequences to the property owner.
Which gives the property owner, if he has an agreement with his tenant, to give him the boot if he puts him in that position.
Right, then it's back on the property owner. But I'm saying to add that to this. The way they're signing it, and everybody is signing that.
The next paragraph talks about, I think, basically what's to be done about conferring the privileges of use of our amenities on tenants. And I know one school of thought is that the membership fee is being paid for that property that the tenant is renting, and so consequently the privileges should go with it. There's another school of thought that says no, it shouldn't. And so I'm interested in hearing what all of you have to say about it.
I think if you're, oh, go ahead,
I
sorry.
think if somebody is leasing property, renting property up here on the fort because of job, let's say, right? All they're doing is renting the property. They have no other privileges here other than to go to and from their property and live there. If they want to partake of the amenities that we have, they have to become, you know, an FRM.
Okay,
What do you got, Lisa?
Deborah?
Well, Lisa had a question really quick.
She's already had.
All right, go ahead, Maria.
How are you regulating that? If you're a renter, you can go anywhere on the port you want to go. You can go to the adult center, you can go to the pool, because until we
Trails.
open it for the summer, you have access to all the amenities that we pay for. My opinion is that the renters should be required to have an FRM, because you can't keep them from our amenities.
And that's where I feel about it too, that if you're a tenant, I don't care what your reason is for renting, it's not my concern. But if you are a tenant, just like we require people who live here to have that membership, that's part of living here, that you have to have a FRM.
But where that comes into play is if somebody's here for a month going to a doctor over in Mexico or something, how do you gonna force them to buy a recreation membership?
Well, according to our rules currently, long-term renters are for over 30 days. So that's why we had defined them as a long-term renter up here. So if you're a long-term renter, which is over 30 days, then you're required to get the FRM. That's what we had talked about last meeting as well.
Well, I get that, but again, and used to, security would stop people. I had somebody in here, they were going to Mexico for cancer treatment. They were walking on the trails down by the creek, and they were stopped and told they couldn't be walking down there. And they were told that they could only go from their house, from the gate to their apartment. And they were told that.
Right, but we can change that.
So,
Yeah.
But if you're not an FRM, then that is all you're allowed to do.
That was all they were allowed to do. But the wife of the husband wanted to walk, and she was walking down around the creek, and she was literally told, so what I had to do was go get her a pass with her name that she was renting from me, and every 7 days that she was here, I had to renew that for her.
Which would make sense too.
No, it does,
I mean,
but it does, but
You know,
again,
ultimately-
you've got two classes of renters.
Well, yeah, and ultimately that's why we
And you could come up
said,
with a 10-day pass or a 30-day pass and a very small something to
Right.
where they've got those, take the load off of your security. But you do have short-term and long-term. So we don't want to, and what it was to me, these people could have loved this place, but because that happened to her, why in the world would she want to come in here and buy a property?
Well, then you set the threshold at 30 plus
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. I'm just saying, you can't just be black and white all across the board.
Because the way the rule is right now, in and out, that's it. So if you've got a dog and you wanna walk your dog on our sport, you're a renter, you can't do that legally.
And it's unenforceable.
Is your
You can't
renter,
do that legally.
Right.
Mr. Griswold, is your renter an FRM?
One of them, only one.
Oh, you have multiple? Multiple
Yeah,
renter, oh, okay.
I have one renter, and he complains about it seriously because he don't feel he's getting anything for his FRM.
Well, that's a different subject. Sorry, but that is a different topic.
Yes, it is.
But I think I think there should be an additional statement in here that says the definition of a short-term renter and the definition of a long-term renter. And I really would like to recommend that we say if you're a long-term renter, you need an FRM. And a short-term renter is entitled to a 30-day pass.
I have a question. Someone that comes in and rents from the fort, the RV spot, for a long-term basis, is entitled and gets all the privileges of a membership as a guest of the fort. Someone that comes in and rents a motel room gets the same. So those are renters. They happen to be renting from the association as opposed to renting from a individual.
What's the
But
difference?
why does the renters that rent from us get all the privileges and the renters that rent from Griswold don't get any privileges?
Because
We
the
We
sports
already
getting
paid,
Especially
we
when-
already paid that anyway with our property
First-
that they rent. So why can't they go ahead and use that?
Because your declarations or bylaws.
Well, then
state
give us our
differently.
money back and let us use it somewhere else.
They're paying $84 a month with one lot for that property. And that $84 a month is supposed to be for a membership. That should include a membership, and that membership should include privileges of being able to walk the trail, use the pool, go into the adult center, and that.
What happened in our
So I
case,
just don't,
what happened in our case, talking about the FRM, and it was a miscommunication apparently, or a change in rules, I don't know, or both. But my renter, the reason he bought the FRM is he was told that it would give him an option of voting. That's not true.
No.
And now he knows that's not true, and he's really disgusted because he was told.
Who told him that?
I don't know the details.
So-
Just telling you what my renter has told me, and I can tell you he's dissatisfied with his FRM.
It could have been a neighbor that told him that,
Could have been.
yeah.
Well, the question, the thought, based on what Dan just said, I asked at the front office, if somebody rents a motel, what are they entitled to as a
everything.
guest? No,
No, they're
No,
they're
they're not.
not.
No, they're not.
From what I understand, they have access to the pool, the 9-hole golf course,
With disc golf,
the adult center,
Trail.
Swimming pool.
yeah, swimming pool, and I think they.
They get a discount at the big golf course.
Yeah.
No, it shouldn't be, but that's beside the point. But the point is the stuff that they are allowed to use as a Fort Clark guest, motel guest, is the pool, the gym, the 9 holes,
disc golf.
or golf, you can play golf there, and
Trails.
the trails.
The trails.
Those are the 4 things that a motel guest is allowed to use, and they weren't positive, but I think the same thing applied to RVers.
RVers.
It does. Plus a discount at the golf course,
Well,
which
that's
is a big
different, yeah,
thing,
right.
it's a big thing.
Right, but those are the 4 things that a motel guest can use, and most motels have pools, have gyms, so,
So wouldn't that as
At best-
additional?
At best, if you want to consider that, but by the fort giving the motel guests or the RV guests the right to do that, they are paying us,
Fort Clark.
Fort Clark. A renter is not paying us anything.
No,
Yeah,
but we
the-
are.
But the landlord is.
But you chose to rent your property.
Well, if
We
we
didn't say
didn't,
you
know
had
we'd
to
be sitting
rent
there
it.
writing it down.
That's
Yes,
true.
if you
I'm
didn't
sure
have the
that the
renters-
landlord figures
Yeah,
$84 a month into their expenses on what they
Face
would
facts.
face.
I'm sorry, I didn't even hear you, sir. What did you say?
I said, face the facts. If it wasn't for the renters, there would be a lot of places on this fort vacant, abandoned, whatever you want to call it. No dollars, dinero, nothing.
Well, we've already got that.
Well,
So,
that's y'all's problem.
and it is, and that's why we're sitting here talking about these things. Do you ladies also have a question?
We're having a disagreement about this.
Well, yeah, but I don't want to be rude, but when you're back there talking, it's really hard for us to hear what we're saying up here and across the room.
If he's paying on that house, if he's paying the same assessments that I'm paying, then I don't understand why his renter doesn't have the same rights that a hotel guest.
Me too, I agree.
We
I can answer, I think I can answer that question.
And it never goes nowhere, but I still put that argument out there. What am I getting from my membership? My second, third, and fourth membership?
So, Mr. Lawrence, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say, the difference is this, that when the guest is paying the motel fees, then when they consume some of the amenities that are offered, then the fort is being paid for that. In the instance where a tenant is paying his landlord a fee, then the landlord is actually selling that tenant. If they had free use of everything, then the landlord would be selling to that tenant the facilities, the amenities that they would be consuming. So it's the landlord who would be benefiting from the consumption of the tenant's use of the facility, if I'm making sense.
You're making
That's
sense.
the difference.
You're making sense. It's just that the point that we're getting to is that the renter has nothing. Nothing. He doesn't get anything. And because of the default, I don't get anything.
They have
I get a-
an
I get a
extra
vote
fee for having a
once
house
a
on
year.
the property.
That's what I get.
Well, the FRM membership is designed for the recreational purposes. It's not designed for you to be a voting member of the association. So I understand what you're saying, he gets nothing, but whether you want to argue what the amenities are something or nothing, there's a list of things that come with your ability to recreate here on the fort as an FRM. Now, where I have to agree that, as someone that decides they're going to rent their property, unless those individuals are people that you are supporting, like they're on your tax return and you can claim your exemptions on those individuals, unless they're in that situation, you are a business owner in that sense because you're earning income for what your tenant is paying you. So it's your business.
And
So
that
as-
is the reason we do this.
And that's fine. I respect that. I do the same thing, but not here. But on that same token, the fort didn't go into an agreement with a business for that particular contract. You are a member, and all of your membership rights are yours. Now let's say you move off and you live in Corpus Christi, but you decide, I'm going to come back and I'm going to use my membership. How is it fair to the people that do pay their memberships? How is it fair for you to give your membership away to someone and then also come back and use it too? That's not fair. They're not your IRS deduction. They're not your people that you are raising or supporting financially. It's part of your business.
So what you're saying is if I don't rent my place and just leave it vacant and move away, then these benefits or whatever go with me? You know they don't, because I'm not here anymore, but I still have to pay for them.
That's how it is all over
We have
all
people
over the
here
United
that do
States.
that all the time. I mean, we call them winter Texans, and they do get to leave their place unattended. They
I
still
think
have to
this
pay
is-
for it, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
they
don't get
still
your
pay their
argument at all.
assessment.
Your argument is flat on the floor as far as I'm concerned. I'm paying my membership dues, and I get nothing for it, other than that first membership. The first membership, other than an extra vote for each one of them.
The
That's
bottom
it.
line is that the fort gets paid $84 every month as a result of that property that's rented. And what we're saying is that we want to give back only, I guess, trash pickup for the $84 a month. That's it.
That's what you're saying.
And a
That's
vote.
exactly what you're saying.
Huh?
That's exactly what you're
That's what
saying.
I'm saying, that's what we're saying. We want the $84 a month, but we aren't gonna give you anything except to pick up your trash once
It's
a
not a
week.
very big deal.
But that's also, when you say you're gonna live in an HOA or in a gated community, you're signing up for that added, I use this word loosely, benefit of living in a gated community that is more, again, loosely used, prestigious than elsewhere. And so when you're shopping around for where you're gonna live, however it is you do it, and you say, I want that added amenity of being gated, I know I'm going to be part of an HOA, there's a prestige that goes along with that. And no disrespect to anyone for anybody's decisions on where they live, but if you decide that you'd rather live on base, on Laughlin Air Force Base, and live in the RV park there, or you decide you want to live across the street in Brackaville because there's no HOA fee, well then that's your decision. Part of deciding to live here is assuming the responsibility of having to pay for that membership.
What ifs?
Okay, this is a HOA.
It is, yeah.
Okay, you can drive up and down any of these streets and it don't look like no HOA.
Now that's a different problem.
No, it's not, it's an HOA.
It has nothing to do with being a tenant. As far as the tenants are concerned,
What I think you're missing the point totally, is you're saying, you're a member, you get this, you get these benefits with your membership. I understand, I get those membership benefits with one membership. Now what happens when I've got 15 memberships? I get nothing else. He's telling me $84 a month that I'm paying for trash pickup. That's not a good deal.
What about
And
the
don't even
security
pretend
down
that's a
here?
good
You
deal,
got
because it's
security
not.
24/7, well, gate guards or whatever they are.
well, yeah, but you get that with one lot. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
The thing is, you have the occupant of one house here as a renter, his neighbor next door is an owner. That occupant gets all the benefits, this occupant doesn't.
But
Doesn't
now
seem
there's
fair.
also added employee cost through the admin and also through the security. Those are added things that I don't have a renter, so how do I justify paying all those extra costs for what they're doing?
What
Because you're
what
only
extra
paying
costs
one
are you
assessment
talking
on one
about?
property.
That's it.
No, I'm paying two. I got two properties.
Yeah,
I
every
got two
lot.
lots.
That's the
I pay
thing.
$127 a month for
Okay,
two
but
lots.
Every
you're
lot.
not paying for 2 or 3 houses. You're not paying assessment on 2 or 3.
But I bought these houses to make money. I bought my houses to make money. I'm making money, and the declarations or bylaws, one states that the membership goes to the owner.
Right.
I mean, I don't know why we're sitting here arguing unless you want to change your declaration or your bylaws. And then you can talk about it. I've had several brothers go in and buy properties, but only one of those brothers get the actual amenities to that property.
But on top of that, with your business cannot profit from common property. It just can't. So, that also supports that tenants should have an FRM. Now, whether the amenities are what you want them to be, that is a different topic. And it's actually more than trash pickup, because people can pick up brush, they can pick up junk that you leave on the side of the road. Maintenance picks up that stuff.
It's all under the title of trash.
But it's not. Brush isn't
Yes, it
trash.
But at one time, you could, at one time,
And
it was
if
only.
you go too big of a pile of trash, you will get an extra penalty. Fine, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
Fee, I paid as much as $200 for a trash pickup.
We can sit here until
Yeah.
a month
Yeah,
of Sundays
you're not
and
gonna
discuss
change
and
my mind.
argue, and everybody is saying the same thing over and over and over.
We're supposed to quit it.
I get that.
So, and we're getting close to the end, and we aren't accomplishing much as we manage to complicate everything.
Well, I think we're
So,
accomplishing quite a bit.
I'm sorry, I've got the floor, Maria, and I'm talking. Excuse me, please, I didn't interrupt you, let me please finish. So I would like a show of hands on whether, there's two options as I understand it you have out here. One, long-term renters must purchase an FRM, is that correct? Pretty simple. And two, tenants receive the benefits of the membership with the property. So all those that want the FRM,
Are you voting?
Time out.
He's time out and I don't know what he's doing.
You said you're going to give the privileges of one of this is the
Membership.
tenant would have the right to use the member's privileges.
yes.
But if the member is not in good standing, you're gonna let them use the
Totally different
privileges?
story,
That's a different
No.
element.
Yes.
totally.
So
We
that,
don't know.
so that goes back to a renter who is not in good standing, or owner who is not in good standing cannot rent his property,
Yes,
right?
That's true.
Well, that's the rule, yeah.
Okay.
that's the rule.
But you
So,
can't make that,
that part of it, we would have to enforce first before you can
Well, there
accept
would-
a renter's.
There wouldn't be any renter to use the privileges because he's not allowed to have a renter if he's not. in good
Right, but there
standing.
there are properties on this court that are being rented by people who are not paying their membership.
Well, That's a question of enforcement, not of legislation.
No, I
Maria,
understand, but, you know, go ahead.
Maria, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I don't think this has been a waste of time, that we have actually gotten somewhere, but contrary to what you think. But I'm ready to vote what you said.
you can't vote, you're gonna have to change your declarations that you can allow that to happen, because right now, you've got
They
documentation.
can allow them in as a guest, but so,
What you have to be careful here, what I'm hearing, that it may be that I'm gonna lose renters because of you guys' decisions.
okay,
But
Because you're
that's
saying that
your
if they
business.
don't- What I'm hearing is if they don't get an FRM, they can't rent here. That's what you put on the floor. I'm not sure that my renters are gonna do
They
that.
won't,
They'll move to town.
they can't afford
And
it.
what'll happen is my place will be standing vacant and I will become deficient too. Because I can't pay, rent on, or
Sir, with all due respect,
fees on something that I'm not getting in a renter.
with all due respect, as your business, that is a business decision that you have to make
I've
on
already
what
made
happens to
decision,
that.
And you're changing that decision.
What we're doing is we're looking at the association as a whole and the benefit for the association as a whole, which is what we're supposed to be doing. So I'm very sorry if you lose tenants, but that's not something that is on the shoulders of this board.
Yes, it is, because if I lose tenants, you will lose tenants. 'Cause I'm
They're
not
not
going to
our
pay-
tenants,
I'm
sir.
not going to, and I
There
don't
are
know
tenants,
any-
but they're hidden.
I don't know
This floor.
anyone on the fort that's a landlord that will let their land sit dormant.
Right, and you'll go
Continue to
advertise
pay
it
them.
and you'll say you've got property for rent, but again, that's your business. And as your business, you do have the right to conduct your business as you see fit, but we have the responsibility to make the decisions that are in the best interest of the association. So, and I'm
So
sorry.
there's
you're gonna say
people
something.
here on this board that hasn't paid their dues in years. What
You
are
know
y'all
that.
doing about that?
There is actually
There is action being
ongoing
Well, you may be,
action.
But some of them are still there.
taken. Action is being taken. You're looking for consensus, am I right?
I
yeah,
think we
Consensus, it's not a vote, it's a consensus
Right.
that you're looking
it's a consensus, yeah.
I just think this needs to have a little more discussion and possibly figure out the best way to go about
for.
it.
Which way are you leaning?
Me,
Mhm,
I have to go with what your declaration stated at this point in time,
mhm. Okay.
Actually,
or bylaws, whichever one it's in.
So what are you
Okay.
saying, Debbie?
What?
what you're
Long-term
saying
renters
is
should
that,
have you can even come up with another fee and call it a renter's fee. I mean, you don't have to have an FRM for renters, you can have a renter's fee.
Actually, declarations define 3 kinds of membership,
Uh-huh.
You do? Yep.
and there's not a renter's membership.
Well, there used to be, they've just done away with it at some point in time.
no, she's not suggesting like a renter's membership, you're suggesting a renter's fee.
A renter's fee. In other words, they don't have to pay the $100 and something up front plus the first month's rent. When you become a renter and they show you that contract, they get a fee, just because they do rent, they get a discounted fee as a renter, maybe.
Okay.
What
So
hurts a
you're-
lot of people is they had to pay a first month, last month, or a fee. So when they first come on here, they had to pay $167, make a renter's fee, to where they just start paying as long as they're here. And then once they're gone, that fee goes away,
A monthly
a
assessment.
monthly assessment.
Okay, so what the position you're taking now is to table this.
I do, I think it needs a
Because
whole lot
we
more
all-
discussion, because you're not gonna be in compliance with your documents.
I disagree, but that's neither here nor there, so. Debbie's for tabling the matter and continuing it at the next session we have like this. Now, Bill, where are you?
If we have a, yeah, I say we table it also because, you know, it's hard to say go one way or the other,
So we need to discuss it
black and
further.
white type of thing, you know what I mean?
Okay,
So,
Maria, where are you?
I'm with what we originally talked about, that long-term renters over 30 days get an FRM. And I do think that the part about a member in good standing being able to rent their home, that's a different category of issue. And I mean, we're doing something about it. So
Okay, well,
short-term renter can get us a 30-day or 30-day or less pass.
Right, so that leaves us a situation, we're not gonna make a decision on it, so that's kind of tables it by default. So
Let me write what we-
we'll have to discuss it further at the next meeting. And it's 11:25, do we want to try to tear into something else for 5 minutes, or just end this right now
Well-
and adjourn it?
let's go back to, the RV park. Just a
Okay,
quick thing, what the changes that we've made, are we in agreement that this would be retyped with the changes we made to
Right.
then have us look it over?
Right,
So
and
basically, the RV park is done.
we can move forward with that one. It's not done.
That's all I
It's not
want.
done.
It's not done. We can move forward with it though and like
Yeah,
type it
get
out.
it retyped to
Yeah.
what the
Yeah.
changes were made and then present it.
who's gonna retype it?
I volunteered to do it. I can do it.
Continue.
This meeting isn't actually adjourned, so if you wouldn't mind, please let us get to the conclusion.
Adjourn it without a motion, I'll do it with a motion. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Do I have a second? I'll second it.
Okay.
All in favor of adjourning this meeting? It's done. Also, as a note, the reason I had gone from doing workshops to special meetings over the last few months, and we've had a lot of them, is because when you search through all of our governing documents and you search through all the Property Code 209, nowhere does it ever mention workshop. And so I started feeling uncomfortable of holding workshops where you don't have to give the 72-hour notice, they can be closed, they don't have to be open. And so to avoid any problem there, I started calling a special meeting instead of the workshop. But the attorneys in our conference with our orientation with them made it clear that as long as we don't abuse it, we can have workshops where we're not required to give the 72-hour notice, and they can be closed, they don't have to be open. My intention in the future will be when we have a workshop as agreed with the board, that it will still be some kind of notice whenever possible, and they will still be open irregardless, because we do want to have the participation of members when we're debating and deliberating over these type of questions. So
What was your
I thank all of you,
We tabled it?
members
Board members.
and board.
I'm just writing it down so next time we talk about it.
Well, we just tabled it because
So what was your position? Because you said something else.
I said originally I was in FRM, but then you start listening to things. Now we got, you know, there's other factors that come into this thing. It's not black and white, unfortunately.